Chapter 4 The Pig Woman. "I don't know if we shall ever reach home again," said Odysseus to his remaining crew. "All I know is this: a man's fate is decided on the day he's born, and we shan't, any of us, go down dead to the underworld a day before our appointed time. So stop that crying. 2 days is time enough to spend crying. We have done what is expected. We have called the names of our dead friends 3 times across the ocean, so that they shan't go down nameless into the underworld. Now we must turn our minds to the wives and children waiting for us at home. We must find out where in the world's round blue sea we are." The men stirred, wiping their tear-streaked faces. They looked up at the sky, but it was one low, white fret of mist that even the sun did not shone through. At night there were no stars. Navigation was out of the question. "Land!" called the lookout. "Where? How can you tell?" "I can smell it. I can hear the waves breaking on the beach." And so they beached, not knowing whether this was mainland or island. When the sky cleared that night, the constellations were unfamiliar, strange beasts prowling in unfamiliar sky. The men shivered at the thoughts of meeting yet another race of cannibals, lotus-eaters, or monsters. A path led inland from the rear of the beach, and, keeping close together, they followed it. Odysseus glimpsed a stag between the trees and went in pursuit, killing it with a single arrow and carrying it back to the ship across his shoulder. Laying it down, he ran after his men to catch up with them, but he could not do so before they reached the farmhouse. It was a shady place of irrigation, streams, and springs. A walkway of overarching vines led to a curved door of brass. As the men approached, the door swung open in welcome, ushering them into the shade of a dining hall. A table was laid there, and a woman with lilac eyes stood calling them by pleasant names. Her plaits of brown and golden hair were like the hawsers of a beautiful white ship, all hung with flags. Odysseus saw the last of his men go inside. By running, he could have stopped the brass door closing. He could have gone in with his men and sat down to dinner with them. But for some reason, he hung back. His feet would not hurry him across the lawn of white mully flowers that silenced his tread. Instead, he sheered off around the house and walked around the farmyard, looking into the pig pens, trying to quieten the unaccountable beating of his heart. Then he crept back to the window and watched what was happening inside. The woman with lilac eyes had seated his men at a table spread with white linen. She gave them fresh warm bread and bowls of tzatziki, with whey to drink, and peeled fruit and parsley and soft cheeses. At least, it looked rather like parsley, that sprinkling of green. She gave them wine, too, and more wine. And then Odysseus dared not close his eyes, although what he saw was too horrible for one pair of eyes to witness alone. As they ate, she walked round the table, round the backs of their chairs. She carried a willow wand plaited like her hair. As she passed each man, she knocked him about the head with it, gently, as if she were teasing. But it was not teasing. Each man's legs at once began to shrink, until he rolled onto his haunches and could not keep his balance in the chair. He would reach out to steady himself, but his arm had shrunk too. No hands at the end, only hoofs, and the men fell out of their chairs and into their suppers, their snouts in their suppers. Snouts, ears, trotters, and curly tails splitting their tunics. They were pigs, every man of them pigs. The animals in the pig pens in the yard set a nightmare, squealing and racketing against the bars. Odysseus ran round the house, thinking to break down the brass doors, thinking to cut the long-haired woman into pieces for what she had done. But once again, his feet would not speed him across the soft lawn of white mully flowers. It was some time later that he knocked on the door and was welcomed inside by the sorceress Circe. Her brown and golden plaits trembled a little at the sight of Odysseus, for although he was a small man of stocky frame, his hair curled like clematis, and his eyes were very brown. Nevertheless, she beckoned him indoors to a single place laid at a long linen-covered table. Her accent, when she spoke, sounded as though she had been born in the very shadow of the Pelicotta Palace. But that was magic. Merest magic, Odysseus told himself. You're late, she said. Your friends have already dined and gone to walk in the gardens. The chair she sat him in was carved with flowers and birds. The wine she handed him smelled sweeter than evening primrose. The meal she laid before him, tzatziki and olives, peeled fruit and cheeses, wine, honey, and fresh warm bread, reminded him of his meals taken with his queen Penelope in the shade of the Pelicotta's vineyard. But that was magic, merest magic, he told himself. He drank down the wine, ate the food, even the small green herbs that looked like parsley, and then he sat back and wiped his beard with the linen napkin. She struck him hard with her willow wand. It raised a red line across his cheek. She said, Handsome or not, no foul man must be allowed to keep his shape on Circe's magic isle. Now, get to the pigsty with the rest of them. No, said Odysseus, putting his feet up on the table. And I said no. He took out his sword and calmly thumbed the blade. You see, lady, on the hour I was born, some friendly god or goddess cloaked my heartbeat with wisdom. That same wisdom taught me that the little white moly flower is the antidote to many a magic potion and poison. And he spat out the little petals that he had pouched in his cheek. Now, before I kill you, you have one last magic spell to speak, madam. Give me back my men, or you will indeed be sorry that you were ever born. Odysseus! He was taken aback by the sound of his own name in the mouth of a complete stranger. Circe sank to her knees in front of him and laid her head on his knee. Odysseus, on the day I was born, a prophecy was written that one day I should be overpowered by Odysseus, king of Ithaca. I cannot choose but love you. It is my fate. I pray you can find it in your heart to love me just a little in return. And she began kissing his knee passionately. Lady, please. You've just turned all my comrades into pigs. Love is not the word to describe what I feel. And at that, she took him by the wrist and pulled him to his feet, rushing him into the yard with her willow wand outstretched ahead of her. She fumbled with the gate of the sty, and as each pig dashed out into a frenzy of squealing, she wrapped it across its bristly back. A moment later, 45 shivering men crouched, whimpering in the yard, their hands and feet clogged with mud, their pig swills clinging to their beards. They would have mobbed Circe and killed her where she stood, but for the terror of her willow wand. Circe, meanwhile, was kissing Odysseus's curling hair. He dodged away, blushing. Next, lady, you can tell me the latitude of your island and where I should be looking for the dog star. This quarter of the sea is strange to me, and I must set course for Ithaca. Circe nodded her hand in her long, shining plaits and bursted into tears. Oh, don't leave me, Odysseus. Stay with me. 100 years I've waited for you, and though it is my fate that I should love you and lose you, I won't let you go so soon. I won't. Odysseus was in a quandary. His solitary ship was in tatters. His men were exhausted. Out there, beyond the bowers of Circe's magic garden, the god Poseidon sat seething in the seabed. Even so, Ithaca was waiting, a kingless kingdom and a lonely queen. I insist. Madam, tell me how I must steer to reach Ithaca. I can't, said Circe. The gods have forbidden me to. Odysseus gave a cry of exasperation and turned away, making for his ship. Wait, if you stay with me 1 month, I'll tell you how to find out that and more. I'll send you to someone who knows the past, the future, and the truth. and we'll tell you all three. A month, a little month, urged Circe, and her white hands were already unbuckling his sword belt.